The title of this time of contemplation is Love in the Time of Pandemic. The book, Love in the Time of Cholera, is a novel by Colombian Nobel Prize-winning author Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The novel was first published in Spanish in 1985, and Alfred A. Knopf published an English translation in 1988, and an English language movie adaptation of the novel was released in 2007. It tells the story of a love triangle between Fermina Daza and her two suitors, Florentino and Dr. Juvenal Urbino. It spans 50 years, from 1880 until 1930. Now, I must confess that I have neither read the book nor seen the movie. I also confess that I considered Benjamin Bratt an excellent piece of eye candy, even before I learned how well he can sing when he voiced a lead in Disney's cartoon Coco. That's a very sexist thing for a minister to say, but somehow I feel like I can share it with you. In any event, I simply couldn't get that title of that book out of my head while thinking about what sort of comforting words a person could possibly offer to a congregation in a time of pandemic. This is a difficult time. We are surrounded by pandemic, uncertainty, chaos in our lives. We've never had to live quite this way, as Liz pointed out in her reading. And potential pain and sorrow beyond expression might be ours should any of our loved ones be struck by this unmanageable demon, the novel COVID-19. How does anyone speak to that in any way that is effective? Our fear, our grief, or our sense of being in totally uncharted territory is not unlike the situation of the Jews while they endured the many plagues in Egypt and before Moses parted the waters and led them into the desert wilderness for 40 years. That doesn't sound like necessarily the happiest way to be in the world. Yet I have set myself to speak on the untenable situation. Or perhaps I could say my role as your minister requires that I do my best in some fashion. I spend a lot of my time these days talking with you individually through FaceTime, through Zoom, through any of the avenues that you are comfortable with, and I will continue to do this. Please get in touch with me if you feel overwhelmed. So truly, I can only offer some things that work for me to help you find comfort. And I hope some of it might prove useful to you. So without doing this in any order of particular value, I would like to run through a few. Some of them you have already heard from me. Others you may find new. So let me begin with nature. You know that has often been my succor in times of trouble. Ever since I was a small child, nature has been my refuge in times of trouble. Now, I will admit that I grew up in a small town a mile from the Atlantic Ocean, so I had privileged access to two major natural sources of both challenge and comfort. I am no idealist about nature. I know nature both red in tooth and claw, and as succor and comfort in every season. In fact, I was dubious about moving to the Bay Area because I was worried I would not get enough of each and every season. I was worried that this would be a problem for me. And that has proven to me the aphorism that worry is a waste of the imagination. Snow is never far away, even in summer here, if I want to get to it. And the rest of the year is lovely beyond words. Climate best by government test certainly is true. There is so much nature to be enjoyed right around here. And who knew when I moved to Redwood City that I would be so close to so many redwood trees? I certainly didn't. All my senses revel in nature, and it's important for us to focus on what we can take in, even with the restrictions in our lives. The feel of the changes in temperature and the wind and the rain against my face, the textures of tree bark of all sorts, from eucalyptus to redwood, the fur and hair of our pets, all these tactual experiences help me. The taste of the many seasonal foods, yes, for me, including pumpkin spice anything. I love it. And the salt on the wind off the sea, I can taste it. And then there's the scent of the flowers, including orange blossoms, jasmine on a midnight wind, of pine resin, of the sea. The sounds of pets breathing, crows and ravens complaining or barking at you, seagulls screaming. They love the dumpster across from our apartment. And the geese calling to one another from the arrow of their flying group. The sight of everything changing color in its time, from birth to death, and watching the movements of all things alive, growing, bringing life to fruition, and releasing for new life to come. I am awestruck by all of it. It fills me, it literally fills me with life myself. My senses distract me from the gerbil wheel I run in my head, my perseveration about all I cannot save, nor even bring comfort. At least it stops me from being paralyzed and frozen in place and helps me move into action to do what I can do, knowing I can't do all I wish I could. And for me, reading brings support. The wise words of others who have broken through paralysis or found their own forms of comfort in words, and then express what they've learned in poetry, prose, or even nonsense. I was so happy to see the haikus that were written at Beth Harrison's suggestion. What a lovely idea. And she promises us another task for the week to come. That will keep us thinking about words, their value, their meaning. And I want to say a good dose of silly in the reading does wonders. So I enjoy funny poetry like that of Dixon Lanier Merritt, who wrote, "A wonderful bird is the pelican. His beak can hold more than his belly can. He can hold in his beak enough food for a week. But I'll be darned if I know how the hell he can." Beyond reading, I also find distraction in movies with good stories, whether they have a point or not, and especially if they make me laugh. Obviously, I'm not just talking about words, I'm talking about laughter and a sense of humor. I recently accidentally, literally, watched the first movie, Trolls. I laughed at all the silly things that happened in that movie, including the little troll, all silver, who farted glitter. That was amazing to me. Then there is music in all its variety and splendor. I don't much care if you prefer headbanging or classical music or whatever you choose. I gather inspiration from all sorts of experiences of music, singing, playing, just listening, especially if I can just listen in the middle of a choir. I am deeply grateful to Dawn Rayan for keeping the choir singing while we are on hiatus from doing so in the worship services. If any of you know how to record from Zoom and sync up a full group of individuals singing the same song under Dawn's direction, I would love to know who you are. Please let me know. We would love to make that happen. A couch choir, if you will. For some of you, the idea of meditation is really not something you can wrap your head around. And conversely, some of you already have long been engaging meditation practice. I am well aware that during times of great chaos may not be the best time to start practice. But those of you who do meditate, please don't stop because of the chaos and overwhelm. It has been scientifically proven to ease stress and panic. I invite you to read tip number 4 in my ministers column on the UUFRC website. I have offered a piece by the new national organizer of the UU the Vote movement of the UUA. That's Unitarian Universalist Association. I know that you will find Nicole charming. I am finding her very well organized, and bless us all, she is deeply spiritual. So I put up her approach to meditation and questions you might ask yourself on my blog. I could go on forever, but I cannot leave out love. For me, love is what helps me keep my sense of humor. When my wife realizes I'm going off again and grabs me by my coat and says, "You really might want to reconsider this." I know that she is simply trying to show me how much she cares by stopping me before I do something radically stupid. She's not always successful, but that's not her fault. And her love brings me around to a better way to be. Now, I know lust can be fun, but that is not the kind of love I'm talking about. I find comfort and inspiration in recognizing what I do love most. I think of Marie Kondo here. Does this give me joy? Do I love this? Or can I let it go? Can I let it not be tripping me up in my world? So, what do I love most? Connections with loved ones, family, friends, colleagues, pets, the reconnections with loved ones that I have been too busy, what a horrible thing to say, to connect with well enough. The loved ones who are steady and grounded and help me to stay that way also. While most of our connections at this time need to be through the internet, there is still a place for some old age styles of connecting. I like to suggest the handwritten note. It means so much. We are so blessed to have Beth Harrison as the board's corresponding secretary. Your notes are wonderful, Beth. You don't have to hide. They just touch me so much. The phone call, where you can hear the person's vocal tones. You can tell not only what they are saying, but you can hear the love that comes through the sound of their voice. The prayers projected with love that you may not even know are coming your way, but are so meaningful. And don't forget the love in your prayers, in your meditations. To hold those that you love in a circle of an irreplaceable virtual hug and let them know that your energy is reaching out, no matter how far, to theirs. You truly are not alone, and it is incredibly inspiring to remind yourself of all the connections you have created throughout your life. Remind yourself of those, ones you haven't thought of, but have been very meaningful to you. Don't just remember. If the person is still alive, reach out. Make contact. Renew the love that has sustained you in the past, rather than forgetting about it. Even if it means holding a memento from someone long gone, taking time to really look at an old photo that means so much to you. And you don't have to limit that to people. It may be a pet who was so important in your life, a garden that you have left behind and is still deep in your hands, in your mind, and in your heart. Make contact if you at all can. Let us treasure all our connections that feed our spirits. Only you know which are best and most meaningful for you. You may also find, if you allow yourself to be open to the love around you, you will find more and deeper connections within this congregation, ones you might not have thought were possible, but are always. I close with words from the Reverend Dr. Mark Morrison Reed, one of our most deeply spiritual leaders for justice, one of our best liturgists in the whole Unitarian Universalist Association, though he is most known for having written the Unitarian Universalist history of relationships with African American people, many of which we didn't know how to handle well, and some of which brought people to us who remain. These are his inspiring words. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all, to unveil them, to see them clearly. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others, once felt It inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. And that is essential. For alone, our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Reaching out to one another today is one of the many ways we do this. Now, Mark knows deeply how loving connection between and among human beings will stimulate creativity, new ideas, provide comfort in the challenges, and offer vision for a brighter and more hopeful future. Let us hold each other and the entire planet in the warm embrace of a love that seeks the best for everyone, without demanding that most of it come to them as individuals. That we see how very much we are all part of the web of life, with respect, with responsibility, and with relish among all who engage the process.